Hi there and welcome to Thursdays with Annette. I'm so excited to be here with you cooking again one of my fabulous recipes. Now last week's show was just so popular. I mean, it was so fun and so many people were making beautiful comments, and we were talking about budget busting, if you remember. And I just want to read a couple of those comments because I really appreciate you being involved in the show and putting your comments in the feed. Now, first of all, thank you for all the lovely well wishes about our new little granddaughter Maddie, who is just divine. She's just gorgeous. They're coming for Easter, so I'm super excited. Now, Dot commented that she was enjoying my shakes and reading my cookbook. So I really love that you told me that, Dot. Thank you. Bronwyn said, thank you, Annette, for the tip to make self-raising flour. I made your zucchini slice from book 1 and I only had plain flour, but you came to my rescue. And what that tip was is if, for example, like Bronwyn, you know, you suddenly go, oh my gosh, I haven't got any self-raising flour, what am I going to do? Then you just have, for a cup of plain flour, you have 2 teaspoons of baking powder, and then it becomes self-raising flour. Easy peasy. Now, Rebecca was commenting that spaghetti bowl sauce from book 1 is really yummy in toasted sandwiches because we were talking about the jaffle and reliving some of the old things that we used to really enjoy. Tracy commented, hi Annette, thanks for all your wonderful tips today. And I thank you, Tracy. That was great that you were there to watch it. Now, Joanne commented that she loves my macaroni beef out of book 2. And I've got to tell you, it's one of those all-time favourites that people can never get sick of. So if you haven't tried the macaroni beef out of book 2, you need to get cooking. And Belinda, she used the braised steak and onion when she was a kid in the jaffle, and that was something we mentioned as well. And I think, yeah, it's an oldie but a goodie. Now, the winners from last week's show got book 2, which was fabulous, and it was Bronwyn Becker. Now, she's actually gifting her win book to her daughter who's moving out of home, so how fantastic for her. Susan Johnson was super excited to be a winner, and Lauren Lucas made the comment that her children sit with her and watch the show. So hello all the Lucas family, thanks for watching, so that's great. Now I want to get in the I'm in the kitchen here, I've got my apron on, I'm ready to cook, so let's set the kitchen. As you know, I have my routine or my ritual, so I start with my rubbish bag. I'll put that in there, so it's ready to go. My soapy sink is good, so I can wash up as I go, or what I do over the show, I just throw everything in and do it at the end. And I've got my utensils here. Now, the recipe that we're making today, get excited, yes, carrot cake, one of those all-time recipes that stood the test of time. It's an oldie but a goodie, it's out of book 1. And if you've never made it, oh my gosh, you need to get that oven on right now. So let's look at the ingredients you need, because you've probably got most of it at home already. So you need a couple of eggs, you need some white sugar, Floralite margarine, some of the baby apple, some fantastic, you know, the ground ginger, sultanas, walnuts, carrots, some lemon rind, and also cooking spray, of course. You need some baking soda and some self-raising flour. And you also need, for the icing, you need the icing sugar, a little bit of flour and some lemon juice for that. And I normally decorate it with a little bit of lemon rind as well, just to make it look pretty. Or you can do, you know, just a sprinkle of cinnamon on the top. Okay, so we're looking good, so let's get started. Now, this is the book that I'm using today. It's out of book 1. Here's the recipe, the gorgeous carrot cake, fantastic. And we start in the recipe. I prepped a little bit because, you know, it's a bit boring to watch carrot being grated. And I've grated some lemon rind as well. Now what I'm going to start with is I'm going to chop up my walnuts. So you start with 1/4 cup of chopped walnuts. So just give them a chop up. And I really think that the walnuts just are a must-have in a carrot cake. But it does add a little bit of fat to it. But of course, you know, walnuts are really good for you. So you make a call on it. But to me, carrot cake has always got walnuts in it. You know, I made it one time, I didn't have walnuts. And so I chopped pecan in. Hello, it was fabulous. You know, so this is what you do, don't you? You've got to improvise with what you have sometimes. All right, So let's put that in the bowl. My prep is done virtually. Fantastic. Okay, so now we can get cooking. Now I have preheated my oven to 180 degrees fan force, so it's ready for when I want to put my cake in. Now we start with the egg whites. So we just have 2 egg whites. And I never put the yolk in unless I really think it adds to the dish or the recipe. And with this carrot cake, the egg white is going to give you all the raising ability. And, I'd rather have the fats coming from the walnuts. They're just better for me, I reckon. You're going to put in 1/3 cup of white sugar. And we're going to beat that for just a minute. Now, one of the things people say is, why don't you put stevia or artificial sweetener in the recipe? And I go, you know what, it tastes like diet food then, and I don't like stevia. I just get an aftertaste in my mouth, and I don't like it. The other thing is, it doesn't keep the cake as well. So if you don't eat it on that day, it's like a rock the next day. So I'm not about that. And really, 1/3 cup of sugar, divide by 10 serves, it's not a lot of sugar, and really, it is a cake. You want it to be sweet, don't you? So I've got it as low as I can without compromising on the recipe. Okay, so there it is. Okay, so what I'm going to do next is I'm going to melt some margarine. Now, I tend to just weigh it. I mean, it's 2 tablespoons, which is 30 grams, but I just put my little glass thing on there because when I use the microwave, I don't use my plastic cups. I always use my glass because I just think it doesn't wreck them up as much. So we've got 30 grams of margarine. I'm just going to melt that in the microwave. There we go. Okay, so I've prepped everything up. My grated carrot's done, everything's done. And what's so great about this recipe is once you've done this, it's basically chuck everything in. So if you're not a good cook, you're going to find this super, super easy. So we start with the sultanas, which are 1/3 cup. We've got our crushed walnuts already done, or chopped I should say. I'm going to put in 1 cup of grated carrot, because hello, it's a carrot cake. And this is the thing that a lot of people, they say, but carrot cake, it should be the lowest in fat because it's got carrots in it. Sorry to disillusion you guys, but it's probably one of the worst cakes for fat count if you're at a cafe. Walk away. Walk away from that display unit. You don't want to do it. And I'll tell you why in a minute. Okay, so I'm going to put in 2 teaspoons of lemon rind. And I'm going to keep that because I might decorate it with afterwards. Let's get rid of these bowls in the sink. Now I'm going to put in a little container of baby apple. And that will give it a lot of moisture, because there's not a lot of fat in this. And so, if you've had trouble with my baking in the past, I'll give you a little tip here. You can't do anything wrong at this point until you put the flour in, okay? So let me get the marge. Okay, so we're going to throw it in. As you can see, there's no skill required, which I think is fabulous. Let's throw that in there to get washed. And last of all, we're going to put in a teaspoon of ground ginger. I just think it gives it a lovely flavour. And we're good. All right, so now I'm just going to mix that all together. And you know what? Can I tell you the reality of a real carrot cake? Now, I checked it up on the internet and I got a traditional carrot cake recipe. And I was just horrified at the amount of sugar and fat in one slice. For example, normally you'd put in here like probably 3/4 cup of oil. you would put in probably, in the traditional recipe, they put about 4 eggs in it. So you've got the yolks in as well, and that's 6 grams of fat every yolk. And then there's the cream cheese that goes on the top. So, I mean, I can feel the fat going onto my bum. I really can. And so instead of my healthy way, the traditional way has 612 calories for a slice. I know, I'm going to repeat that. Did you hear me right? 612 calories, or 2,562 kilojoules. That is nearly half my day done in a piece of bloody carrot cake. Forget it. I mean, 31 grams of fat. You know, yeah, you need this recipe, okay? And do you know what? Do you know the breakdown? Can I have a drum roll, please, people? Oh, it is a guilt-free 3.8 grams of fat and 184 calories. I know, stop it right now. I'm amazing. This is a recipe that we all want. So now what I'm going to do is I've got 1/4 cup of warm water, and I'm going to put in 3/4 teaspoon of bicarb soda, and that will just lift the cake, because a lot of low-fat cakes, they're kind of just so heavy and they stick to the roof of your gum. No, no, no. Not the Annette Sim way, thank you very much. We're just going to add that in. So that's your bicarb and your 1/4 cup of warm water. Then all I have to do now is put in the self-raising flour, and that's 1.5 cups. Now, you know, our self-raising flour is pretty good quality here, but I'd still like to sift it. You know, call me old-fashioned, whatever. I just think it's a good idea. Now, we have mixed all that mixture up with no regard whatsoever, but now what we're doing is putting in the flour. And this is where you've got to be careful how much you move it, because what happens if you really are rough with the flour in here, it's the gluten and it becomes rubbery, and you certainly don't want a rubbery cake. So instead of getting there with your beater and beating it all up, hello, no way, don't be doing that with my recipe. You just gently fold it through with your wooden spoon. And once this is all mixed together, and once you've sort of got all the flour in, stop. You don't want to get there and, you know, beat it up and cream it sort of thing. All I'm doing is dissolving the flour. Okay, that's looking fabulous. All right, so let's get my tin. Now you can put it in a round tin or a loaf tin. Today I've decided on a loaf tin because I like slicing it in a square sort of shape, oblong shape. Cooking spray. Now people say to me, what's your best one in there? Which is your favourite? And I go, well, you know what? Whatever's on special is my favourite cooking spray. There you go. All right, so we put it in the tin. How good does this look? My gosh, afternoon tea in the office. Do I hear a yes, please?
Yes, please.
All right, so we put it into the what do you call it? Loaf tin. But what I do is I actually, when I'm spreading it, I tend to push the edges out a little bit further so that the middle bit, this bit here, is not as high. Because that way then it comes out like a really nice flat top. So we're going to put this in the oven for about 35 to 40 minutes at 180. And then of course you'll leave it in the tin for just a little bit and then flip it over onto a rack, and you'll ice it once it's cool. So now, because we have time problems, I've actually made one this morning so I can show you how to ice it. So here, see how it's nice and flat? That's what you want. You don't want it to sort of go up like this, because that way these little end pieces are not getting enough, okay, you know what I mean? So we're going to start with the icing. Now I'm going to sift the icing, always sift the icing, because you don't want lumps, because they're really quite hard to dissolve in icing when you're making the icing. Now, I've done 1/2 cup of icing sugar because I really think that is enough. I don't want to have it this thick. I just want a nice coating of icing over the top. Okay. Fantastic. All right. Right, so now I've done the icing in there, and what I'm going to do is add a teaspoon of flora, which would be 5 grams if you wanted to weigh it. And now what you do is you add a little bit of lemon juice. Now, let me get my knife. I'll just cut that there. You probably only need maybe 1 or 2 teaspoons of lemon juice, but I like the acidic flavour with the carrot cake. I mean, you could do orange if you wanted, because you know you have got that orangey look to it, but I just think it's sort of a little bit like the Philadelphia cream cheese kind of thing, you know, where it's a bit sour, and so you want to be able to do that. Alrighty. So let me get rid of my mess here. Oh my gosh, carrot cake, I love it. All right, so we're going to just put in, let's measure, because if you put too much in, it'll be too runny. So just start with a teaspoon. Now you could use your electric beater, but I can't be bothered to wash mine. So I'm just going to beat it up. You know, carrot cake is one of those all-time favourites that everybody loves. And in the recipe, I tell you, if you don't want to put icing on it, say if you're a person with diabetes, for example, you might be going in it, I really don't want the carbohydrates. So I can tell you how that works. So with the icing, it's 3.8 grams of fat, and with plain, it's 3.5. The calories are 184, as I said, with the icing, but if you don't put the icing on, it drops it down to 155. So there you go. Okay, icing. And I think this is where a lot of people go wrong. They put too much icing and then it gets super sickly sweet. Let's do it. It freezes really well. So what I've done in the past is I've actually made a couple of carrot cakes, because if you're making one, why not make 2 at the same time? And I put the other one in the freezer, but I don't ice it. I leave it like it is before I did this. And so when I want to, you know, some visitors are coming and I think, oh, okay, let's get the carrot cake out of the freezer, then I add the icing once it's defrosted. Oh my gosh. This is such a good recipe. Remember, it's the carrot cake from book 1 that has, you know, 3.8 grams of fat and only 184 calories. So let's get a bit fancy. Let's put some lemon rind along the middle. And we are done for afternoon tea. Yay! I am excited about that. I don't know about you. And the thing is, everything in moderation is great. Just because it's sort of low in fat doesn't mean you eat the whole cake to yourself, all right? What you could do is you could slice it, cling wrap, and put it in the freezer so that when you have that chance, you can defrost a piece. All right, so now, what are you going to win? You're going to win, of course, you're going to win this book. Hello, have you gotten up? If you don't have book 1, you are missing out on some awesome recipes. So we're going to pick 3 winners. So how do you become a winner? Well, you should know by now that you like, you share, and comment hashtag simply too good. If you do SIM, then you don't qualify. You have to do it the right way, people. SYMPLY, number 2, good. And you could be one of those fabulous lucky winners like last week, and you could win a personally signed cookbook. Now, next week's show is going to be one that I'm really looking forward to doing, because it's an issue that we all often have. It's lunch. You know, when you've got to pack a lunchbox for young or old, what do you do? Because there are some great ways you can have really healthy lunches, but you can also do it a bit wrong. And also if you're bored, if you're making the same old lunch all the time, be here next week. I've got lots and lots of tips for you to share. So it'll be all about lunch boxes next week. Now, the end of the day though, It's all about carrot cake today. Who knew that weight loss could be so deliciously healthy? Hello, guilt-free, 3.8 grams of fat in my belly. Thank you very much. If you want more tips and recipes, go to my website. There's fabulous stuff there, www.simplytoogood.com.au. And I cannot wait to see your comments today, and I'll join you next Thursday. I'll be here. Hope you are too. Take care now. Bye.